ALC. Welcome to Sensational Sundays.
ALC Global.
That just for the next few moments, what's going to be shared in you, through you, around you, is going to change you forever. And a changed you will change your world. You will never be the same. Are you ready now? Let's go. My ancestors, or I am, I don't know if I should use ancestors because it's just my grandfather's family. And my grandfather married to a woman by the name of Iola. You know, that's an old name, Iola. And so he was married to Iola, and Iola was the sister of Adele in our, but Adele in our vernacular. And she was married to a man by the name of Midas Albritton. And Midas Albritton was the brother of Dave Albritton. If you're in sports or know anything about history, Dave Albritton was on the team with a man by the name of Jesse Owens. And they went to the Olympics during the time, in the Olympics in Germany. And they were distance runners, short runners, sprinters, and they won everything, black men that won everything. So I am from a family of distance runners. In other words, I may not win it today, but I'm gonna keep running, and I ain't gonna give up until I get to the finish line. And I guess after over 40 years, you've noticed that about me. Dave Albritton didn't get all the gold medals. He got a few because Jesse won them. But they all came out of the same high school, which of course was the same high school that my grandfather went to. My grandfather was a decathlon. And so, 10 sports? 10 sports. And that's what he was in. And he helped to train them because my grandfather was going to be in the Paris Olympics, but they did not let him in because of his color. Well, anyway, Jesse and them were on the stage. And while they were on the stage, they walked up to get their medals. And of course, we know this as history, that Adolf Hitler would not shake their hands, which my family, it's on a reel, it's history. And my family was so daggone glad about it. They did not know, and the question that has been in my family is, were you going to shake his hand? And no one knows whether they would or they wouldn't. The State Department didn't say much about it. Our government, we learned, didn't say whether they should or whether they shouldn't. Some were divided on it, but they were not like those black men that time when the Olympics, and they put them fists up in the air like that and drove America crazy. But Adolf Hitler would not extend his hand because what had been broken was the myth that Aryan men were better than blacks. So they came back heroes, and once they hit the shores of America, the hands that they expected to shake would not shake their hands, because now over in Germany they were Americans. But once they got back to America, they became black or Negro at that particular time. The only country in the world that the moment you put your feet on its shores. You are no longer, at that particular time, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Polish, French, British, Russian, Serbian, Croatian. You are no longer any of these. The moment you put your foot on American soil, if you are any of those that I called and several more, you became white. And the reason you became white was you cannot be white unless you have black. There is no white without black. Because you must have contrast in order to be that thing called white. And so what happened in history as we approach black history, as we come off of a Martin Luther King holiday, as we began to understand that Jesse and them, when they walked in, they became black. And when they went to get the claps and the applause of the Olympic stars and all of the people in America who wanted to clap for them, it was at a banquet in a prestigious hotel. They were not able to walk through the front door because Negroes were only allowed to come through the back. They were not allowed in the hotel actually anyway, but they could not allow them to be seen going through the same doors as white people who were only white because they had created black. You only have what is called a black church because you have created black in order to be in contrast to white. Without black, there is no white. You follow me, right? Okay, so they allowed them through the kitchen. They came in and they got their awards. No hands were shaken because no photos could be taken of a person who was white shaking hands, especially a politician, of someone who was black, because they would lose their base in the South. So the base, what they call the base of voters, even though at that time they were not Republicans, they were the Democrats, or what they call the Dixiecrats. And so they would not shake his hand. You say, wow, thank God we don't live. The country has come so far. As a former governor of South Carolina has said. But what we discover is a former governor of Florida shook the hands of a black president and committed political suicide. Chris was never able to rebound from the shaking of the president's hand. Not only was it that, Chris Christie, I think, embraced him and was never able to become a political viability after that. Even though he tried with Trump, they never accepted him because once you touch black, there is something in the base that says you are no longer one of us. You are now, open air quotes, other. It is this other that has become not mere. You say, well, that's racism. It's more than racism. Someone has created a class of something, a caste of something. I was listening just a few days ago to someone that said, especially, and it was, I heard preachers say it, I heard politicians say it, and I can't remember, but maybe because I didn't really care, but I heard them say, we're color blind. Always be careful when someone says colorblind. Don't you ever say it. When you say, well, we're colorblind. White is not a color, although it is a color. It is not what they consider, or they, and I shouldn't say, because just because you may be white in skin does not mean that's white. It's such a confusing scenario.
Let me break in here for a second. I want to tell you a little secret. There is something I used to do. It was commodity trading. And they used to have something on the list called winter wheat. I never knew what it was, never paid any attention to it, because in my northern background, all I saw in the winter was hard ground, snow. How could anything grow? Well, I learned different. I learned that winter wheat was something that was planted around the fall, around September, October. And when it was planted, they didn't just throw the seed out there on the ground. Of course, it would be too hard. But they drilled down into the earth and almost like planted them one by one. Now, when the snow came and the winter came, it would go dormant. But when the spring came, it would come up again. And they would harvest it around that time. Winter wheat. In other words, there are things in our lives that we plant in times when people think they won't grow. There's a number 9 that I believe symbolizes finality. It symbolizes harvest. It symbolizes the end of something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, you start all over again. This is 2024. 2, 2, 4 equals 8. New beginnings. But watch this. You can plant during the new beginnings, but you can't eat the harvest until later. When you plant something, it takes time. Sometimes it's dormant. Sometimes there's a winter. Sometimes you feel like everything is shut down, just like the earth is shut down in the winter. But you know what? Spring is coming. A different kind of growth is about to take place. So what you thought was not going to happen is going to happen. It's a seed that you plant in the earth. The seed and the need. The need is in the seed, and the seed is in the need. So whatever it is that you need, and whatever needs you see around you, plant it. It might be $9.90. It might be, for those of you who have it, and people have it, it might be $90.90, or it might be $99.90, whatever. Put a 9 in that offering. It might just be $9. Whatever it is, take the time. Plant it now. You can call the number, you can text to give. People love it. 713-742-2035. That's 713-742-2035. Or you can go to myalc.org. I love myalc.org. It's safe, it's secure. And you can hit that donate button, smash it, crash it, hit it. Let it be known that you're there. And you will see how to do it. Look, there are a lot of needs around in this world. There's going to be a lot of issues coming up. It's going to look like everything is lying dormant. But remember, if you put your seed in the ground, it's already coming up while you're not thinking about it. In the wintertime, it's not the heat from the sun outside that will grow this seed. Guess what? It's going to be the warmth of the sun inside that will make this seed come to life. It's going to be a warmth, like warm oil inside of you. Give, you'll feel it, and it will make a difference not only in the lives of others, but also in your life. All right? We love you. Stay blessed.
White is not white when white is white. White is white, but white is not white. It has nothing to do with skin. Black, all of this has nothing. It was created. In the beginning of 1619, you call colorblind. You didn't need to be colorblind. Because you see, when you saw someone of a different color than you, it didn't mean anything. They were just a person who were exotically different. If they were white, they were different. If they were black, they were different. They were just different looks and kinds of people. No big deal. They began to fall in love around 1620, a year when the Pilgrims got here. They began to marry. And finally, after a while, they began to realize that they cannot, people, and these were the Irish and the what they call low-class English. And they began to mix and talk to blacks because they worked side by side. They were indentured servants. But the difference was the indentured servants from Ireland and England who were not called white. Because when you got nothing on the continent but white, then you can't call yourself white. Because you're the only folk out there. This is why black people in Africa don't call themselves black. They're people of the land. There's no contrast. You only become white when you put your foot on American soil. We are the only country where you are German until you touch American soil and you are now white. How does that change that fast? How can someone who is black, who does not shake the hands of a dictator, of a man who killed over 6 million Jews, not shaking his hand, whether he offered it or not, would make that person a hero? How can you, who did not shake Hitler's hand, come back to a country where you are American, put your foot on American soil, and you now become a Negro? But you leave American soil as a Negro and you become American. You go to France, you are American. You go to Germany, you are American. You go to Russia, they put your butt in jail because you are an American. But you leave an American and come back a Negro. What kind of country are we living in? What kind of country calls this colorblind? So when you see a person of color, you say, I don't see your color because I'm colorblind. You cannot be colorblind unless something has been removed from your brain and your retina and your optic nerve that will not allow you to see black or make black look white. You only can be colorblind or say colorblind because you believe that the dominant color is white. So therefore, I don't see your color because I have accepted you as me, because I am of the dominant class. Now we're dealing with caste. So here is what happens. When we come back home and we find ourselves in a country that says this, and we're wondering, how in the world did that happen? And we realize that what America did and the wealthy did, they realized they could not build this country without labor. The white English labor or the underclass They couldn't keep them there because during that time of the 1600s, what made you who you are at that time was not your color, but your religion. If you became Christian, they could not keep you in slavery after your indentured servant time. So you had to write down the name of the person, their family, the day they arrived, and understand you got 7 years after that. They are free to go out into this country called America to make their own way because they have already paid their indentured servanthood, which was their ticket on the boat. The Irish were the same way. But people of color, they did not write their names down. They did not write their family down. And they did not write their age or the date they got here down, which means they never planned to release them. It is something called, and not only did they not plan to release them, people say, well, Dr. Ed, can't you let it go? Why can't you let it go, Dr. Ed? Because of one word. Property. And there's another word I want. Perpetual. It's the root is perpetual. What is it when your children, what's that word? Perpetuity. You are not planning on keeping one slave. You were planning perpetuity, which means you were planning for my child and my child's child and my child's child. Beyond the quarter of a millennium that you captured them to stay in slavery all the way until you reach the coast of California. And my children would forever be there. Why in the world would they want to enslave people? Very, very simple. These were not just bad, cruel people. They were innovative people who learned and knew how to turn people into currency. They turned black people into money. When you get used to the drug called money, what do you mean turned it into money? You could sell them. You could put them in your will to your children. You could will them to the next generation. You could will the little child of the couple that you had enslaved to your baby girl to play with like a doll. You could rape them. You could make children with them. You say, well, it's the same as it is with sex slavery. If someone is a sex slave, and we know we have children that are sex slaves, we know how bad sex slavery is. But if one could get free, that sex slave can run to the authorities and say, I was a sex slave. And the authorities would embrace them and grab them, wrap them in blankets and say, let's get you out of here. But people of color had no one to go to. There was nowhere to run. They could run to the north. No. Lincoln only freed the slaves in the South. It was never said. It's quietly rumored. But the those in the North were not considered slaves, but yet they were. So there was no need to free them since they were never considered slaves. They freed the slaves in the South to break the economy of the South, which is why the South wants the slaves back. But you cannot enslave a people if their minds are right. And when but when you come over and your mind, you don't know how to get back. The boat you came on, how do you get back? Where did you come from? What's the route? And then they add religion to it. And what blacks learned, the Negroes or the Africans learned then, was that if they could become Christian, they had to let them go. And so Africans began to declare Jesus Christ. And then what happened? They said, they made a law. And the law was, you can be Christian with Jesus in your heart, but your body belonged to the master. So when you baptize, you must say these words. Jesus Christ, I give you my life, I give you my life in my heart, but my body belongs to my master, Then they will dunk you in the water in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. What does that do to the psyche? You can't marry because a marriage is a covenant. A covenant is a contract. Negroes couldn't make contracts. They take your child and sell your baby boy of 12 or 13 to the next concentration camp. You mean plantation. I said concentration camp. And you sell the boy there. And mama and daddy, mama must hold her lips because she can't let it be seen how much she's hurt. And daddy can't fight because mama is holding daddy back, because if daddy fights, daddy's dead. And mama must hold this black man back for someone taking their child. Not just once, but over and over again. Perpetuity. We're willing to talk where people are willing to talk. But then when someone in 2023 and 24 is asked the question, what was the Civil War about? 750,000 of American young men were killed in the Civil War, the largest war on American soil. They fought it. Then after that, there was the freedom of the slaves. Then came Reconstruction for 10 years. And then they stopped, and people of color became governors and senators because there was 4 million people in the South. And they began to run the country for 10 years until the South, who were the traitors who lost the war, cut a deal with a new northern president because they had killed Abraham Lincoln and said, remove your troops and we will go back to our relationship with you. They removed the troops and left the 4 million formerly enslaved people in the hands of the ones who enslaved them. And now you began what was called Jim Crow. The laws that began to mess not merely with the body, but now with the mind. When you walk down the street and you see a white woman or a white man or a white boy or white girl, you step off the curb and you drop your head and you walk on. You do not address them. You do not look at them. The second thing you are not ever allowed to do is to vote. Why in the world was voting so popular? Because it's what got, for those 10 years, those governors and senators into those courtrooms and judges for those times. They stopped them again from voting. Listen, if you're waiting on me to bang on your young heads to tell you you ought to vote and you're going to tell me I ain't because of Gaza and Israel, I will say this to you. I want to put someone from Israel and someone from Gaza side by side, and you tell me which one is which. You don't know enough about the situation. No, listen, I do not agree with the bombing of children and babies. I do not agree with hostages and Hamas. I do not agree with any of those things at all. But you gotta ask yourself a question. And here's what I came here to ask you. First of all, how many of you on your own, with your own money, paid off your student loans? Clap if you, oh, okay, with your own money, yeah. I'm in there too, because I paid off my student loan. Someone tell me, how much were your student loans then? How much was yours? 40,000. Huh? 50,000? How much was it? 50 combined. That's 90. Anybody? All y'all that clap, give me the numbers. 50. Go ahead. Keep going. 45. Okay. Any more? I know, because you're playing. Now, we could go on and on for those who, don't want to tell us. I know why you don't. You're scared they're going to come back and get you. Anyway. Been there, done that. I had to pay mine off. I was scared to say anything about it either, because I don't know anybody who has gotten their student loans paid off here recently. Is there anybody in this room that has had their student loans paid off recently? Not by you, but by government. Clap if it is. Wait. Okay. You didn't understand what I said. Okay, maybe y'all misunderstand. Let me be a little clear. I'm saying those of you who had student loans, but then all of a sudden it was miraculously wiped away because the government, you may have been paying on it, but now the government just finished it off and gave you a zero balance. If you got your student loan wiped away, clap for me. Whoa. How much did you get cleared? 19? 15? Okay, 20. Anybody else? All of it. Y'all just tell me all of it. I want numbers. 70,000. Listen, you ought to be shouting. See, that's where you listen, you call those numbers. I'm having you call those numbers. See, when you speak it, call the number. Don't be scared. I ain't going to release your name. Anyway, we do know we're going in this place right now. We do know we're going up over hundreds of thousands in this building of people who got loans erased. Now, my third question. How many of you believe that Donald Trump will continue to erase your student loans? Okay, forget Donald Trump, because you must understand something about that. I only threw that in there for fun, because honestly, Trump is the puppet. Your problem is the base. And here is the way it works. Two of you are walking together. One has always been in front by 2 to 3 steps. And you're walking, and you're always behind on the sidewalk while they walk. Now, all of a sudden, they're 3 steps ahead, and something happens. You get a little energy drink or something, and now you're taking bigger steps. And now you're 2 steps. They're only 2 steps behind them. And now you keep walking, and you're talking to each other. Now you're only 1 step. You love each other. You're friends. You're only 1 step behind. Something's wrong here. Because now you're only 1 step behind. And so now you both are brought into Congress. And the question is sitting there in front of the whole world, and the cameras are on. And the base is watching. And the question is asked, do you believe that we should all be equal in the way we walk, in the way we talk, and financial, and how we, when I say equal, in other words, it's based on what you're able to do, but we should all be able to have that same opportunity to do what we need to do. One of you will say yes. The other will be careful, because if the base hears them, they may no longer be electable. The job they have may go away, because the base is all around. So those who are close friends, you don't know who your friends are when it comes down to what we call the nitty-gritty. When it's time for us to stand up, will you be with me? But I understand, because you got a wife, you got a husband, you got children. What will happen to them? Because the problem is so much deeper than the color of someone's skin. Somebody is determined to make money. And so what they do, they set all people who are white, who were made white, against black, because they need it in order to keep you 1 or 2 steps behind. Here is where your problem is now. Here is why you're seeing affirmative action problems. Here's why you're seeing voting problems. Because other people have gotten too close. You're too close to a multicultural society. Yes. Even in your, quote, black church, you must be taught to hate gay people. You must be taught to hate the other kinds of people, even though they're your color and has been in your church all your life. And you saw them. You knew they were what they were when they was dancing in church. They danced differently. But if you are taught to hate, why would you hate something that is other when you are other? To hate others is to hate your, well, I'm not. Right now, we go into the words of Jesus. And Jesus says, even love your enemies. That don't mean love someone who is white. It means love your enemies who you consider other. Here is why I am called to you. And I'm not called to the other Baptist church down the street. And not called to the other large Pentecostal. Here is why I am called to you. If we do not make a change in 2024, I don't care what dreams you have. You could have the dream to drive a race car and be the first other black person to ride in the NASCAR. But you can't ride in the NASCAR if you don't have a track. They are about to take away your track. I got great business people in here. And I hear you talk about your dreams for your business and for your future. And I hear you tell me those dreams in your future, and I nod and I smile and I encourage you. I just don't want to tell you that if you don't make the right kind of structural changes now, that you won't have the road to drive your truck on. Because they will take away the pavement. Do you own the pavement trucks? Do you own the electric grid? What do you own other than Louis? What do you own? It's all right to own Louis. Do I have my, I don't have my Louis belt on today. I got, that's the old belt I got on. See, what the one my daddy used to. But you don't have, what do you own? How versed are you in their markets? What's your investments? How do you think? And there was a man with 5 talents, 2 and 1. And one dug and put it in the ground and say, I knew you were a racist. I knew you were not good. I knew, and so I hid the talent in case you came after me. But the others took what were given, made investments, kept the profit, and gave the person who gave them the money back. You have to, first of all, number one, I told you to expand your thinking. Here is why I am here with you. It is why I threw the word gay out to you early, quick. I threw it out to you because some of y'all still ain't got past it. These things should not bother you. You are in the world, but not of the world. These things should not bother you. What you should be concerned with is who are you following. So let me remind you, and I'll be done with today's message. Didn't plan on preaching too much anyway. I don't know if he's going to be here or not in the cold. First of all, I trust Jesus Christ. I have accepted and received that Jesus Christ lived, was crucified, dead, buried, but rose again, was his Father, raised him from the dead. When I pray, I do not pray to the universe. I do not pray to the planets. I do not pray to trees. Because I am not a pantheist. I am a panentheist. There's a difference between a pantheist and a panentheist. A pantheist believes that God is all things. A panentheist believes that God is in all things. I believe that I pray to God, whatever you think God is, in the name or in the authority, in the character and the intent of Jesus Christ as he taught me, our Father. When I look at the universe, I understand the order of it, the cataclysmic colliding of galaxies and planets and stars and polars. I know all of these, but I understand they cannot happen unless they are under the watchful eye of my Father. And notice I call him my Father. Why do I call him my Father? So you will hear me call him my Father. Because you see, I am a follower of Jesus Christ. I am a follower of Jesus Christ and his teachings. And I have engaged many of you years ago and asked you to become followers of me as I follow Christ. Not followers of me like I follow Christ, but followers of me as we walk together and as we follow Jesus Christ. And you have gone out and found others and asked them to follow you as you follow this Christ. This is not when people say, oh, I know you're a Christian, you're like me. No, I don't answer that question anymore. Are you a Christian? What do you mean by it? Well, you know what I'm talking about. No, what do you mean by am I a Christian?
Let me break in here for a second. I want to tell you a little secret. There is something I used to do. It was commodity trading. And they used to have something on the list called winter wheat. I never knew what it was, never paid any attention to it, because in my northern background, all I saw in the winter was hard ground, snow. How could anything grow? Well, I learned different. I learned that winter wheat was something that was planted around the fall, around September, October. And when it was planted, they didn't just throw the seed out there on the ground. Of course, it would be too hard. But they drilled down into the earth and almost like planted them one by one. Now, when the snow came and the winter came, it would go dormant. But when the spring came, it would come up again. And they would harvest it around that time. Winter wheat. In other words, there are things in our lives that we plant in times when people think they won't grow. There's a number 9 that I believe symbolizes finality. It symbolizes harvest. It symbolizes the end of something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, you start all over again. This is 2024. 2, 2, 4 equals 8, new beginnings. But watch this. You can plant during the new beginnings, but you can't eat the harvest until later. When you plant something, it takes time. Sometimes it's dormant. Sometimes there's a winter. Sometimes you feel like everything is shut down, just like the earth is shut down in the winter. But you know what? Spring is coming. A different kind of growth is about to take place. So what you thought was not going to happen is going to happen. It's a seed that you plant in the earth. The seed and the need. The need is in the seed, and the seed is in the need. So whatever it is that you need, and whatever needs you see around you, plant it. It might be $9.90. It might be, for those of you who have it, and people have it, it might be $90.90, or it might be $99.90, whatever. Put a 9 in that offering. It might just be $9. Whatever it is, take the time. Plant it now. You can call the number. You can text to give. People love it. 713-742-2035. That's 713-742-2035. Or You can go to myalc.org. I love myalc.org. It's safe, it's secure. And you can hit that donate button, smash it, crash it, hit it. Let it be known that you're there. And you will see how to do it. Look, there are a lot of needs around in this world. There's going to be a lot of issues coming up. It's going to look like everything is lying dormant. But remember, if you put your seed in the ground, it's already coming up while you're not thinking about it. In the wintertime, it's not the heat from the sun outside that will grow this seed. Guess what? It's going to be the warmth of the sun inside that will make this seed come to life. It's going to be a warmth, like warm oil inside of you. Give, you'll feel it, and it will make a difference not only in the lives of others, but also in your life. All right? We love you. Stay blessed.
Religion tells you that God is up there and you're down here. Religion tells you that God is over there and you're over here. Religion? Heard it all? I thought so too. Someone once challenged me not to think of the creator of the universe as just some big guy in the sky. I see it as more than that. This power helps us raise our kids. It helps us to get our businesses together. Makes us who we are. Now imagine this power not as some big guy in the sky, but as a power working in you. Now, how amazing would your life be?
Looking for something more? Go to myalc.org. That's myalc.org. The Abundant Life Center for dynamic living through spiritual growth.
I'm Ed Montgomery. Looking for more?